What's going on, guys? Aarava here. Welcome back to Let's Talk F1. This is the year-long series where I get to talk about real-life Formula 1 over the course of this season. Of course, we're doing car launches right now for the F1 2016 season. This is the third video of the day. We've done the Mclaren, we've done the Mercedes, and now it is time for the American team. Haas F1 have finally unveiled their first ever Formula 1 car, and wow, I'm impressed at how good it looks. I think the livery looks pretty okay. I mean, it's nothing like spectacular, but I think it looks pretty decent. But in terms of the actual complexity of the car, I'm surprised about how good the front wing looks, and the rear end looks quite tight. So we're going to go through, analyze a little bit, look a little bit more in detail. This video will probably be part one to a two-parter for Haas F1, because obviously maybe there'll be a bit of sit time for everyone to kind of look at it properly. We might find a few new details here. If I do read up about any new things that are on this car or anything new comes up over testing, I probably will do a second part to this video. So I may not cover everything. A lot of it's just going to be kind of my opinion and a bit of guesswork here and there, looking at some not amazingly high-res photos. So don't take everything with a little bit of pinch of salt for this one. But let me know straight away, guys, as usual, what you guys think of the car. What do you guys think of the livery and the actual just complexity of the car in the comments below, all that good stuff. But let's get straight into analysing this car. So we're looking at the front view now, and starting off with that nose tip for Haas F1. They've gone with a kind of blend between the Mercedes short little kind of tiny narrow nose and the finger nose we've seen Ferrari and McLaren have. It's sort of a kind of merge between the two, because it looks like the Mercedes one, but it's just gotten wider and it's sort of almost turned into a finger, but they've kind of shaped out. I think it looks pretty good. Of course, I think what they'll find and what we'll find is eventually they probably will transform that into the full kind of Ferrari or McLaren style finger, because eventually their R&D will probably, tell them that they can get a bit more better airflow if they push back those kind of two side channels a bit further up to actually make the finger, because the same sort of thing happened with McLaren in 2014, if you remember. They started off the season with a not too bad looking nose tip. It was quite a rounded one, but then they kind of did some R&D work, and straight away for the second race in Malaysia, they went to that huge kind of stalk at the very front of the car. And I think that's what you'll find with Haas maybe. Eventually, at some point in the season, I'm going to guess already that they're probably going to revert to more of an aggressive style look on that nose like the Ferrari or McLaren. In terms of the front wing, I've circled it just because, look at it. It looks pretty damn nice for remember, this is the first attempt. This is their first F1 car. Yes, they've got some help from Ferrari in the technical aspect, but in terms of mechanical stuff, they've got everything from Ferrari. But the chassis, the aero, everything is their own work. The only parts that are helped by Ferrari are all the mechanical parts. Nothing aerodynamically is from Ferrari. So for a first attempt front wing, a launch spec front wing, that looks pretty damn decent, because if you remember back to the likes of Caterham, HRT, Marussia, or Virgin back in the day when they launched, it looked very, very simple when they launched. And of course, Formula 1 as a whole has moved on since 2010, so you would expect the kind of newer, if a new team came in, it would be a bit more complex. But I am quite, pleasantly surprised. Of course, there are signs that it is definitely kind of a first attempt and that they can definitely refine it, because as you can see, clearly there's no kind of tunnel cascade system like Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren have been trying to do. Obviously, Mercedes kind of pioneered that kind of cascade tunnel that kind of curls off to the side of the car, and that Ferrari and McLaren, Red Bull have tried to kind of copy, and that kind of cleans up the airflow around the tyre and kind of stops all the weight getting disrupted. But obviously, that will come with time. As I said, the entire time when we're analysing this car, I think it's good to keep in mind this is their first attempt at a Formula 1 car, and it's just great to see. Moving on, if we go up towards the chassis, the top of the chassis, just where on top of the suspension arms, you can see there's this kind of little bump. You can see it in the lighting, and I've kind of tried to kind of highlight it in the green. I've kind of highlighted a panel that was sort of there, and there's a bit of a bump. Now, not many people actually know what that truly is, on Twitter at least, in terms of the analysts looking at it. Some are saying that it might just be some awkward suspension kind of packaging. Some saying that it could actually be an S-duct, and whoever's done the kind of vinyl wrap on the top of the chassis is mistakenly wrapped over the S-duct, or maybe they're just trying to hide the S-duct, or maybe that's just a panel there that is going to be just there, and they know they're going to put an S-duct in there eventually. So if they do eventually put an S-duct in there, very not good signs that straight away they're thinking about those sort of things, because there are teams still in Formula 1 that have been around for a while that still haven't even ventured into looking into S ducts. Even the world champions themselves, Mercedes, have not even done an S duct yet. Obviously, Mercedes not doing an S duct isn't too big of a deal because there's not anything that's really going to gain you so many tenths over a lap. But it's just something. It's nice to note that Haas maybe is looking at some things that are already on top team cars. So it's a good sign there. If we move up to the side pods of the car, I've circled it on the left. You can see that this kind of upright comes off from the floor and then comes across. Usually most teams like to kind of bring it all the way across. Looks like Haas has opted to kind of have it 1/4 of the way swooping down. So perhaps later on you might see that get extended all the way to the kind of cockpit side of the car. We've got no vortex generators on top of the side pod, so obviously, you know, just there's a few signs here and there that obviously eventually those sort of things will come with time, with R&D. I'm sure through preseason testing they might put on a few little bits and bobs, and eventually over the season you'll see those things. But then again, on the flip side, the comparison, they have got a few things that I wouldn't think they would have, because if you look at the top of the roll hoop, I've circled it, you can see the little winglet. It's a little bit hard to see because it's on white and it's a white background, but they've got that little winglet there that Ferrari have had, that Williams have had. It basically affects the airflow that's at that height of the car. When it hits that winglet, it's going to go towards the top of the rear wing and help the rear wing work. So quite nice that they've got that there. And just a little note on the airbox, they've got a split airbox. They've got two compartments, one on the top and one on the bottom. So good to see that. Obviously, they would have got help from Ferrari in terms of the way they actually architecture their engine and everything like that. So they've probably got some tips from Ferrari there. I think Ferrari as well has got the same split sort of airbox strategy. So pretty much very similar in that sort of sense. If we move to the top side of the car, I've noted just the kind of, again, the profile of the nose. You can see it's a very, very smooth nose. And as I said, eventually I do think it will become more of an aggressive finger nose at the front. But you can see I kind of tried to highlight the front wing complexity. They've got about 3 elements on the actual main bit. And then they've got a really nice chunky cascade on the left. So I'm still very, very kind of intrigued that they've got that much level of detail straight away out the box. So it'll be good to see if they can develop maybe into the whole cascade tunnel like Mercedes and Ferrari have done. So we'll have to see how that goes. But moving to the rear of the car quickly, on the right hand side you can see that's the profile of the side pod. Pretty nice and smooth, pretty nicely packaged at the back. You know, I think it's definitely not as tight as a McLaren or Ferrari this year, but I kind of liken it to almost like the same level of packaging as the Mercedes car or even the Ferrari of 2015. So it's definitely not at the level of like a size 0 packaging like McLaren or Ferrari. More interesting stuff is actually their tire squirt slots there on the left hand side. You can see there's actually, it's in silver. They've actually randomly kind of got the tire, the parts where the tire squirts are kind of either coated or kind of manufactured in silver instead for some reason. It might have just been a design choice or maybe a different material. But yeah, some very interesting tire squirts, and straight away, it's good to see that they're on board already with the whole kind of concept of having the tire squirts. They've also got some uprights the same as Mercedes have got, and that will help create vortices. Those vortices will go in the middle of the rear tire and the rear wing, create a vacuum there and let the diffuser work a lot more efficiently. So already promising signs at the moment. And again, we go back to towards the front, I've kind of just tried to detail that little kind of panel there where the bump is on the top of the chassis. It's a very odd bump, so I really hope that we get some answers eventually from interviews, or maybe in testing we'll see if they open it up and do have an S duct there, or maybe it is just some very odd suspension packaging. We'll have to see. So moving on to the overview of the car, looking at the front end there, you can see on the left hand side on the front wing, that's the sort of kind of cascade tunnel I was talking about that the Mercedes has, and that's the sort of the new trend in front wings. That's what every team is trying to get. So I've sort of tried to illustrate what they might be going for later on in the season. At the moment, you can clearly see they've got a very flat, straight kind of elements of the front wing. So eventually, they'll probably try and get the cascade thing going, because that's the biggest trend right now in F1, to try and really clean up the front end, although that is one of the biggest things that makes the front wing so sensitive as well. Moving on to the wheels, you can see they've got open wheel hubs, suggesting that they are doing the blown wheel hubs like McLaren, like Ferrari, unlike Mercedes actually, but like Ferrari, like McLaren, doing the blown wheel nuts where the air is coming through the brake duct, it's not even hitting the brakes, it's going all the way through the tub and then allowing the air to be cleaned up on the outside. So again, another good sign. There is the bump. You can see the bump a lot more on this angle, I feel, with the lighting, because it goes from white to black on the way the lighting's shone on this car. So you can really see the bump. So again, a little bit peculiar. we'll see what kind of comes of that. And then as we move on to the rest of the car towards the side pod, you can see the nice swooping smoothness of that side pod. Again, I think if you compare it to like a Mercedes car, the kind of smoothness they've got is actually quite impressive and compared to Mercedes, the same sort of thing. If you move on to the actual bottom of the floor, not towards the rear tire, but actually the front of the floor, you can see they've got this kind of nice little flick going on the wall, which is quite interesting, nice little detail there. But then obviously I've tried to highlight in a bit of a smaller kind of line there. You can see they've got about 3 squirt gaps and they've got 2 little uprights, the same sort of thing that Mercedes have going on right at the edge of the wall of the rear tire. If you then move your attention upwards to the rear wing end plate, you can see they've got 3 streaks like McLaren have debuted ever since Germany 2014, and they've got 2 slot gaps going down the edge of it like Red Bull have in the past. And then again, on the exhaust, they've got a Mickey Mouse exhaust. You can actually see it right now. This is from the Haas F1 video confirmation and a really nice picture of that Mickey Mouse structure. So you've got the huge exhaust pipe at the top, and then you've got the 2 wastegates on either side. And then I've sort of tried to highlight how the engine cover is, because it looks to me like the top part of it, at least, it might be the lighting again tricking me like it did in the McLaren video perhaps, but it looks like the top half of the engine cover, it does kind of bulk out a little bit, so maybe suggesting at the very top of the actual engine cover, they maybe haven't got it as smooth and as tightly packaged as they have on the bottom of the chassis. Going through these next few pictures, these are just some details from the Haas F1 launch video. They did a few nice close-ups in the Haas F1 launch video. So these are just highlighting some parts I've already talked about. Here you can see the airbox and the winglet I was talking about that Ferrari and Williams have all in detail. If we move to the next one, you can see a nice close-up of the streaks on the rear wing there, and also a close-up of that vortex kind of pylon coming across from the floor. It doesn't extend all the way to the actual cockpit there, but yeah, you can see the streaks as well on the rear wing quite nicely. Here, there's a close-up of the chassis. Again, you can see the bump a little bit better here. Again, I really hope you get some answers. I think I probably will be doing a part 2 of this video, guys. So if you are new around here, then do get subscribed, and I'll be doing a part 2, hopefully within the next few days. After testing, maybe we'll get a few more answers in terms of what's going on with this Haas car fully. As we continue to move on, we get another close-up of those tire squirt gaps, and you can see I just about tried to pick out what the kind of upright is, but it's a little bit difficult because the video is quite dark. Obviously, they're trying to hide as much as they can in this launch video, but you can see the tire squirts quite well because they have, as I said, it's a different kind of color to the rest of the floor, which is a little bit odd, but there you go. And of course, being the American team, good patriotism, they've got the American flag on the left and right on where usually the numbers would go. But yeah, guys, that has been my first initial thoughts and analysis of the Haas F1 team. By all means, any of this can be taken with some pinch of salt. Obviously, I've said at the beginning of the video, we really don't know too much. Obviously, this is the first F1 car from Haas. Not many people have actually done analysis already on like Twitter and stuff like that, so I haven't been able to read up on anything that I might have missed. So I probably will do a part 2 once there's probably some new information, some probably more accurate information about everything on this car. And obviously, eventually, hopefully, Gene Haas himself will give us an interview or anything like that, so they can tell us a little bit more maybe about the architecture of the Ferrari engine underneath that cover. But as a whole, I'm liking the look of it, and I'm quite impressed. You know, just it's impressive and nice to see, you know, a team hit the ground running. They've already done one installation lap, so it's good to see that probably they won't be floundering straight away when they join. So guys, as always, if you have enjoyed that video, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Again, if you haven't said already, tell me what you think of the look of the car. Do you like it, hate it, you think it's alright? You know, there's quite a few mixed opinions on Twitter at the moment, but I think the general consensus is it's not as bad as we thought it could have been, because it could have been completely great, to be completely honest, by the way their overalls were and things like that. So I think it's turned out pretty well, but let me know your thoughts again, and if you have enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're new around here, then do subscribe for more car analysis. I'll be doing, obviously, the Force India, the Toro Rosso, the Red Bull coming up in the next day or 2 in testing, and then I will be coming back to the Haas car eventually, and then of course we have things like the Williams who are doing a revised front end, so we'll do that eventually on this channel. And this is going to be a year-long series, Let's Talk F1. Going to be doing videos every single race weekend, analysing new parts on any cars and discussing the races and everything like that. So if you're into that sort of thing, do hit that subscribe button. You can get updated when those videos come. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed that video again. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I've been Aarava. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Okay, so right now it's 1:52. It's 1:52, and Haas are launching at 2 p.m. Clayton Nixon on Twitter suggested I should film my reaction to seeing the Haas car. So yeah, I'm just sat here looking at my Twitter timeline, and you'll get to see what my actual reaction is when it actually hits Twitter. Oh, here we go. Any minute now. People from NBC tweeting. F5s everywhere, refreshing everywhere. Right, it is 2 p.m. now. It is 2 p.m. right now. It is 2 p.m. right now. The car should be coming out. TR Limitless has tweeted, no car after 1 second past the hour, unfollow. Come on, Haas F1 Twitter. Or anyone, please, tweet. Tweet. There we go. Oh. That looks nice. That looks nice. It's got like white, red, black. No blue. I thought there might be some blue. That is nice. That is a really... that's quite an impressive tight end as well. They've gone for a bit of a Coke bottle, not too much. That's sort of it's almost like the rear end's almost like a they tried to make a Coke bottle, but obviously they don't have the R&D yet to fully like make it really nice and swooping. The front end's like the Ferrari, but like a really smoothened out stubby nose. Front wing looks pretty good for like a new team. For a new team, this looks good. And the livery, I'm liking it. I like the livery. I like the livery. It's not just dull grey. They've got some splashes of red here. Red rear wing, red front wing, edges. Haas everywhere. They're their own sponsors, basically. American flag, of course, on the side. But I like that. I like the look of that. That is nice.